fellow Voyagers. Welcome back to another podcast, episode 5. My name is Gabe.
I'm Juju.
I'm Jasmine.
I'm Ryan.
We are the Gabelings.
Yeah, welcome back to the Tins and Pairings.
So in this podcast, every month we vote in a book to read, and we also vote in a tinned fish. During the episode, we talk about the book, and then we eat the tinned fish that we vote in while talking about the book.
And last month, for the tin that we rolled for our flavor profile intensity level. And when we rolled to see what kind of fish that would be, we got It's Off the Hook.
It's our wild card roll.
And that gave us pair the tin with something you wouldn't pair with.
So what do we got today, Jazz?
We got Jose Gourmet ABC Plus trout fish filets in onion relish. We bought our tin from Caputo's Market in Delhi, and they nicely wrapped it for us.
You haven't opened
Oh,
it
that's
yet.
cute.
Yeah, to see it. Yeah.
This is an unboxing episode.
I also got to pair with it a hot pepper bacon jam. This is our not supposed to be paired with fish item.
It comes from Terrapin Ridge Farms.
Cool.
And then this is what the tin looks like.
Very
And-
in theme.
The book of the month, we got Borne by Jeff Vandermeer. I think this was a Jasmine pick. So,
So true.
I do have the book if y'all want to.
yeah, show that thing off. That
Oh,
thing.
yeah. That's a book.
Hell yeah.
This is the most book of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not a 10
Um,
book.
Let us first try the tin of the month.
I did not.
It's marmalade.
Marmalade? Wait, what kind of marmalade?
Wait, is it a marmalade or is it a jam?
It's a
Mar-
jam. It says
Oh,
jam in the
sorry.
title, Juju.
To be fair, I bought it a while ago. I did not look at it, so.
Yeah. Fair enough.
This is the tin in all of its naked glory. We did not heat it up.
Unfortunately, I'm too poor to purchase it, but I will imagine it in my mouth.
I'll imagine something else in your mouth. Oh my god. This thing is like a whole fish.
I cannot find a knife without going downstairs, so I will be dipping
Ooh.
it.
Okay.
Oh, that smells really good.
See if I can open this fucking jar.
Or taint this hot pepper bacon jam.
It smells really good.
It's an interesting smell.
It just smells like hot pepper bacon, Juju. God.
It's the jam part.
Juju, do you hate jam?
No, I love jam.
Okay. She's just jamming out to jam.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
Should we
Juju, what
try
are
it?
you eating it with?
Yeah.
I'm eating it with crackers.
Yeah. We got circle crackers.
I have clump crackers. I have square ones.
Rectangle. What the hell? I can't even tell your shapes. What's wrong with you
Excuse-
today?
I
Damn,
know.
what-
As someone who's failed geometry twice, I could confidently say that that's a rectangle.
Should we
No.
try them individually first and then together?
It's probably a good idea. Ew. Sorry, the way it smelled for when I opened the tin.
Yeah. So what kind of fish was this again?
This is trout. I believe it is a rainbow trout. Could be wrong though.
It ain't
Oh, it's
looking
eight-
very rainbow to me anymore.
Well, that's because it's been tinned in onion relish.
Damn.
Gabe. Not Gabe. Ryan. I almost said Juju at first too. God.
She has to go through the whole cycle of children before she gets to her husband. Trying some trout on a cracker.
That's
Yeah.
a trout. Yep.
Yep, not too bad.
It's not as potent as I thought it would be for it being in an onion relish.
How's the
Thick in
texture?
face.
Juju, what do you think?
Flaky.
Yeah.
On its own, like Jasmine said, it's not as like onion tasting as I thought it was going to. It's not bad though.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm gonna try a little bit without a cracker.
We're gonna try this jam now.
Try a little jam.
That's a good jam.
Jam on a cracker, a little jam.
That's a very good jam.
I'm gonna try it with the jam on its own. See how that is.
It's like barbecue.
Because people do jelly in those little smokies anyway.
Yeah.
When they're cooking those barbecue.
That's what it tastes.
This would be the jam that I use.
This is what it tastes like the little smoky stuff. Okay. Together, the moment of truth. Damn, she's just going right in there with jam. She's got a big fucking scoop.
You want more crackers with your jam?
Piece in there.
Okay, put it on the cracker.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's actually not bad.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, does the jam like override the other flavor of the fish?
It complements each other very well.
Yeah. I think like the jam is pretty prominent, but it's pretty prominent in the way where the onions are also coming in with the jam. Like you can still taste the oniony taste, and the fish just kind of tastes like a meat.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a fishy taste to it, really.
Yeah, honestly, like they said, it complements each other really well. Despite it's supposed to be like something you're not supposed to pair it with, it's actually tasting pretty good for something combined together. So
Okay. Okay.
Disclaimer, I did not get to the book this month due to unforeseen circumstances.
Same here, but that's not a surprise to most of you guys. Kids like, what's a book?
It's like you guys are lucky that I read 2 of them.
Dave actually has a multi-personality disorder.
I do. I am undiagnosed. Right now, whoever's fronting does not read books.
His frontal lobe. That's what he's getting at.
frontal lobe fronting.
All right. So we got Borne by Jeff Vandermeer. It's about a young woman named Rachel. She survives as a scavenger in a ruined city, half destroyed by drought and conflict. The city is dangerous, littered with discarded experiments from the company, a biotech firm, now derelict and punished by the unpredictable predations of a giant bear. Rachel acts out an existence. Fuck. In a shelter of a rundown sanctuary she shares with her partner Wick, who deals with his own homegrown psychoactive biotech. One day, Rachel finds Borne during a scavenging mission and takes him home. Borne as a salvage is a little more than a green lump, plant or animal, but exudes a strange charisma. Borne reminds Rachel of the marine life from the island of her nation of birth, now lost to rising seas. There is an attachment she resents. In this world, any weakness can kill you. Yet, against her instincts and definitely against Wick's wishes, Rachel keeps Borne. She cannot help herself. Borne learning to speak, learning about the world is fun to be with, and in a world so broken that innocence is a precious thing. For Borne, that makes Rachel see the beauty in the desolation around her. She begins to feel a protectiveness she can ill afford. Oh, fuck.
It's a long ass summary. I would have put the book back right after the first paragraph. I'm like, no, too long.
Not even the actual book, just the summary.
Why is this book more than a paragraph?
But as Borne grows, he begins to threaten the balance of power in the city and to put the security of her own sanctuary with Wick at risk. For the company, it seems, may not be truly dead, and new enemies are creeping in. What Borne will lay bare to Rachel as he changes is how precarious her existence has been and how dependent on subterfuge and secrets. In the aftermath, nothing may ever be the same. So the genre is kind of like science fiction-y, fantasy. It's got a lot of dystopian, post-apocalyptic horror. Got some themes like being outcasted, like the parental struggle between parent and child, a family, just general survival, child loss, and personhood. Target audience here, people who like sci-fi, fantasy, horror, people who like apocalyptic settings, who like alien-like creatures.
But as for the audience, trigger warnings will be sexual contact, animal abuse, animal death, murder, body horror, essay, and torture. Viewer discretion is advised. As usual, I will be your moderator asking the questions, but for today's episode, Jasmine and I will be splitting between the 4 categories. Let's get started. So the first question, the writing style. Number 1, do you find the author's writing style easy or hard to read?
So I would say that the author's writing style is fairly easy, but it's not like super easy. It's not like the last book where it was like simplistic because of the target audience. I would say that it was easy because it did a mixture of like world building and describing things while kind of still doing like the narration because it was all from a like kind of from a first person perspective, but it was done in a way to where the author could still kind of expand on what it was introducing. Like everything's written like a journal entry in this from the protagonist Rachel. So I would say that it was fairly easy, but not like too easy.
Yeah, I agree with Juju. Like the chapters themselves were pretty interesting, like Juju was saying, the way they're set up, because they're like titled, for example, what I found in Wick's apartment, or how I did this, what I did this, and they're all like little journal entries. So I thought that was really neat in terms of like the writing style. Yeah, it might have like a little more challenging language just because it's like a sci-fi genre. So usually there tends to be like a little like higher elevated language, but I think it was pretty easy to read overall. I was looking over the actual writing style because Ryan listens to the book. He doesn't actually, which by the way, her voice actor, hella good job. But anyway, I was looking over like how she does sentences, and Jasmine pointed out they're like a little weird, but I think it's more like, you know how like in the olden days they used to spam commas like crazy in like the 1800s, kind of like that, similar, just a little bit, but that's what I was getting. But yeah,
Do you guys think that the author did that on purpose, or is that just her general writing style?
I would say maybe both. I would say that he tends to like write. I mean, I haven't read any of his other works, but kind of just based on this book. I think it was a mixture of trying to write it like somebody who's writing a journal entry while still having enough like grammatical correctness for a novel,
Mm.
but kind of like in terms of individual style, also doing it where the author, I think, just does, like, really long sentences and tries to find ways to, like, describe a lot of stuff in, like, a short amount of space, kinda like Ryan was saying with, like, it every chapter has, like, different titles, so I'm it almost seemed like the author was doing it to where it's like, "Okay, we're talking about this part in this section, so how can I get the information into, like, a sentence without it being, like, a run-on sentence, but also not be like, leaving out any details since we're already talking about this one subject." So I would say that it was both intentional and, just part of the writing style in general.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like almost conversational, I think of, because like when we're going on these long rants about descriptions and stuff, if you were to write down the sentences, they would literally just be like long run on sentences with a bunch of commas and stuff. So it's almost like she's talking into her journal. She's using all this stuff like the commas, she's spamming those and like fitting like the descriptions in. And she also does the thing where she gets into a topic and it reminds her of another topic. So that like her next journal entry is about that other topic. So it's really like conversational to me. So it makes sense. It makes sense that it's intentional.
Interesting. That's actually kind of neat. I never heard that kind of writing before. Do you think the way the author wrote the book effectively explored the intent themes and plot points?
Yes, I would say so. Kinda like we were talking about that journal style, it's because of some of the events that happened in the book, it would make sense that she had started a journal after kind of like some discoveries that you find out closer to the end of the book. I would say that because it's like a first person perspective and it's kind of like an account while still doing the world building, it not only explored like what kind of stuff was going on in the plot and how and like kind of the way things unraveled, but also just the way that the story was being told because it wasn't completely chronological, but it also like wasn't all out of order either. 'Cause it's technically, like, not a past account, but the way it's written is kind of like it's a little bit in real time, but in a way where it's trying to tell the events of something that has already happened. So I would say not only did the author explore some of the characters' general themes, like general character arc, some of the stuff going on with the protagonist, so Rachel in this case, but also was still doing it in a way where it explored, like, the plot lines both, like, chronologically, but also, like, in the former tense.
Yeah, it seems like it was written for herself, but also written in case someone were to find it, I guess, because it's like she's talking to us. And because she mentions, like, towards the end, she didn't want to bring up all the contents of Wick's letter. Like, she would keep some of that to herself. And it's like, if you didn't want anyone to see this, why wouldn't you just write this down in your journal, you know? So it seems like she is putting this somewhere, or at least has a assumption that someone might find it. The writing style is trying to convey that, I guess. But yeah,
It's taking like an account.
yeah,
They're kind of interesting. Like, in a way, you as a reader almost read this book as if it was the journal, right?
yeah.
That's cool. I like that. It's like, ooh, ooh, spicy.
Wait, yeah, you would have liked this book if you weren't too busy with your finals. Frickin'.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
yeah.
Junior and a senior here now, guys. Fucking losers.
Stupid. Imagine going to college. What a loser.
Imagine not going to
know.
just get more stupider.
Yeah.
Now, into our next section of questions, it will be about the general plot and themes. All right, and first question is, whose background history surprised you the most?
I don't know, it's hard because there's so many, like, details revealed in, like, the third half of the book. Just because of the complexity of the character, I would have to say Mord had a with the most surprising one, the fact that, like, because of all the different traits and characteristics that Mord had been described having, I was kind of surprised at the fact that he was originally human and not just always a flying prototype bear. The fact that, like, at some point it had evolved to that point. The evolution that they talk about with Mord having like over time, kind of almost like Borne in a way, where they just slowly evolved over time and like just became something very different than what it once was. And the fact that it seemed to almost be like a gone wrong situation, and yet they didn't really have a plan of what it would be utilized for. They don't go as much into Mord, but I would say like the fact that he was once a human and turned into what Rachel describes him as is just really surprising.
Especially since he was involved with like Wick too. Like Wick was part of the reason why he turned into a big bear
Yeah.
and like became a terrorist. It's cool that the background connected to him. But I agree with Mord. I guess I'll mention like Rachel's background kind of surprised me a little bit just because like it expanded the world a little more. Obviously, I knew there was stuff beyond the city, but it doesn't go beyond the city. Like they don't leave the city. The whole setting is just placed within this like ruined city, and they live in the cliffside or whatever. And Rachel originally wasn't from this area. Like she was from an island and she has all these memories from somewhere else. And she used to live with her parents and stuff like that. And then she wound up here and her parents were fucking slaughtered and shit like that. And it's just like her background coincided with Borne's in a way as well. Because like all those little guys got slaughtered as well. He was like one of the few that made it out there because they kept shipping crates to the city. And anything that came out of the crate, they would kill. But yeah, so that was kind of surprising to me.
Damn. Oh,
Me
this is
too,
really
them as a human, but turned into a flying terrorist bear. They
Yeah,
also worked with a guy named Wick. What a dick.
Bear had cubs too.
Yeah, they're like prototype Mords or proxy Mords.
Yeah, there were so many of them, and they were terrible.
Yeah, oh my god.
Isn't there at least 3?
More than 3.
There is at least 3.
There's at least 3. Yeah.
Damn. What happened to these cubs?
They would like go after people. They would slaughter people. People have like cults devoted to Mord and the cubs too. It was weird. People get weird in the apocalypse.
Yeah, true. Plus, they almost had like consciousness in a way, so sometimes they would just do shit, not just out of survival, but just for the sake of torturing other like beings or like testing their powers or like just doing it to do it, almost like humans do.
Yeah, towards the end, they even had like their own language and everything. Like they had created their own little section. Low key, it was like the KKK created their own little language, but it was just restricted to that little group because Jesus Christ. There was literally a scene where Borne and Rachel were watching these bears destroy and plow through these children.
Yeah, it was wild.
Okay, so the next question. What plot points surprise you the most?
There was a lot of them, but I think the most surprising I would have to say is when you find out that there's like this one-way portal that basically confirmed that not only was the company still like existing in a way, but also that it was kind of almost suggesting like dimensional travel. Maybe Ryan can expand on this too. The way I interpreted it was that this is almost like an alternate universe or like an alternate location that was accessed through a one-way portal because they go into the company building because they're originally looking for Wick's medication, which is a whole other thing we can go into later. In the basement of the company, it's end up revealed that there's this one-way portal where the crates came from, and on the other side, it almost looks like a holographic wall from the description, but it's actually supposed to be like a one-way portal, like nothing can go through it, but other things can come from the other side. I would say that was probably the most surprising just because it confirmed that like how different stuff was getting over and just the fact that like it expanded more in the world building.
Yeah, it really did. That connected so much for me. That came into the thing. I was like, oh, this just made a full circle. Juju stole that one, so I guess I'm gonna go. Let's see. I liked Wick's like whole plot there where he like worked for the company. He was refusing to tell Rachel about his like projects and stuff that he did for the company. And he was like a drug dealer as well. And he revealed he has like this illness where he needs stuff from the company. So he was dealing with the magician. She was giving him like medicine and stuff like that. And then she was blackmailing him eventually. And it was just this whole thing that was going on. But his involvement with the company, Mord, and the magician, I liked that plot line as well. Like it just came up and it started really accelerating things, especially when they actually went to the company. Good motion.
True.
Brother.
Damn, there was drug dealers involved?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's like there's drug dealers.
Thing.
There was
Yeah,
a human turned prototype flying bear, but you're surprised by drug dealing. Not to mention alternate dimensional portals. Drug dealing is what's got you right now. You've heard of cocaine bear, but have you guys heard about meth gator?
Meth Gator.
That's
Oh
apparently
my God.
Yeah, it's a movie.
What the fuck?
I've seen Cocaine Bear. It's horrible but funny at the same time. All right, next
Look.
question. How did you see the themes/main messages come up in the book?
Some of it was indirect, but most of it was pretty like direct or like right in front of you. I'll use one example for this, like the theme of personhood. Bourne's entire character definitely, because of the evolution of his character, which that's going to be like coming up later, but it really explores, like, for example, personhood, because it makes you question, like, what defines a person and, like, what defines, like, something that is trying to mimic a person. They were pretty direct with all of their themes. That's just one example. Some of it was done in a way where it's like it was just explicitly stated, and then some of it was done through, like, characters' actions. Some of it was done through just, like, information that was given throughout the world building. So there was multiple different ways that the author kind of, like, wrote it in. Some of it was also mentioned through dialogue, but it kind of came up either, like, within a character, outside of a character, in the world building, and just multiple different ways that it came up. But in my one example, that was more of, like, it came up with the character and how it evolved over time, but
I really liked the parental struggle there because, like, Rachel, she didn't intend to be this little creature's parent. She literally just picked it up because she thought it was like a sea anemone type creature and she was just interested in it and drawn to it. And then she forms this parental bond to Borne where when she has to eventually leave it, like she has to kick him out of the house and stuff like that. She kept recalling the times where they would just be running through the hallways and like punching holes through walls because that's what the mother child type fun activity was for them. And she like taught him a bunch of stuff. He was like some kind of biotech creature. You could tell as he was evolving, he didn't need Rachel anymore. And she was getting like more and more kind of like, okay, like there was a point in time where she was trying to give him a book and he didn't want the book anymore because he was just like, I already know this, Rachel, and stuff like that. So the parental struggle there of when you have to draw back. At one point, do you figure out when's enough for your child? And then the actual child lost because she did have to kick him out of the house. He was killing people, basically. He was absorbing them. So, and she told him to stop, and he said he couldn't. So, God, the fucking clone scene.
oh my
That's another
god,
thing
yeah.
we need to get into. But overall, like the child loss and the parental struggle there, it was just coming up in scenes that they were doing, the way she was reflecting. But yeah.
Cloning, you said. It seems to be a common thing for this Jeff Vandermeer guy. I'll get into that later too.
Okay. Next question. Was there any satisfying or disappointing parts of the story? If so, why?
There's a couple that kind of come to mind. I would say for 2/3 of the book, though, I kept wondering, I'm like, where is it gonna go from here? Like, are they gonna answer some of these world building questions? And Ryan kinda touched on this earlier. I was really satisfied with the ending because they finally explained where things came from. They explained why this happened because there was just so much that they were introducing, and I'm like, how are they gonna connect all of this into one plot point? And I was very satisfied that they finally came full circle.
Yeah, the ending really brought it all together. You were literally just following this girl through life. Like she was just detailing her days and stuff with Borne and growing up with Borne and these random apocalyptic struggles. So you just kind of wonder, like, is this just going to be an account of what she's experiencing in the apocalypse, or is this going to get solved in some way? Because the way they seem to be dealing with like Moore, the magician, and stuff like that, it seemed like they had a more important role. So I was just like, come on. But it tied it all together so nicely, and it was, like, snowballing up really well, and then it fell down, but yeah, the ending brought it all together.
So, like, the author basically just gave you so much information that you guys were just, "What the fuck is going on?" And then at the end, you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh." Did you guys like that? Do you guys like that in a book?
Yeah, it was enough substance to keep you interested and kinda make it more well-rounded, but then the ending came and it finally took all those plot lines and all the different elements that were introduced and then just connected it all in a way that actually felt natural. So I would say that it was well done.
See, I like that because I know in previous episodes, we sort of had moments where it's like, there was this one plot line and it just never came back. The author did not explain it.
Right.
But, like, I
Yeah.
guess in this book, everything that you question, or as far as I know, with plots, it's the ending actually gives you the answers to the majority of the plot lines.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Interesting. So, what do you think about the ongoing changes within the setting throughout the book alongside the plot?
This book has a lot of like environmental devastation and a lot of focus on like the post-apocalyptic setting. There was stuff that was already established at the beginning of the book, but then there's stuff that was happening in the setting itself as the plot was unfolding with Borne. Not only did it create more world building and give like more dynamics. For example, there's a scene with the magician where she tries to take down Mord, but it takes away his flying ability, but it doesn't kill him. So then he ends up landing into the company building and then killing everybody in the company building. And later comes back up because they had to go back into the company building, but because of that scene going on in the background, it later influenced not only their ability to go through the building, but it influenced the fact that Mord couldn't fly anymore, and that's just one example. There's other examples throughout the book where there's, like, these random things that are, like, talked about that it's like, "Oh, sometimes the magician does this," which actually did end up coming later, or there's different power struggles that are demonstrated, but they're all really only introduced to kind of, like, expand on the setting. So I thought it was done in a way that not only touched base on what the author was trying to get across with the characters, but also just expand on its own world building to later then tie into the ending, which you find out, so
Yeah, I agree. I also thought like the fact that it's told like a journal and she's slipping in like these little details that you would not think much of because it's like conversational, like we've established. And then later it comes back up. I just think of for setting wise, Born just like adapting to his settings. Like there's points in time where he just like, becomes liquid puddles. Like the first time he actually morphs himself, or first time, and then he goes through an encounter with one of the proxies, he becomes a rock and he has Rachel inside of him. So it's just like showing the environment through Born, which is kind of cool. And also how Born's interpreting it because he's also putting on all these spaces and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. So, as someone who didn't read the book, this is like it's very interesting to hear parts of it. How you guys
Look a
like
lot.
yeah, yeah,
like
you would like this.
Except for what I know about this guy already.
Yeah.
interesting. How do you feel about Bourne's evolution over time? Does it change your opinion of his character?
Borne's evolution, I mean, this is almost like a double answer because it's like his whole character is meant to evolve, and yet he undergoes evolution that either wasn't supposed to happen or happened because he found Rachel. So I just thought it was really interesting to read her perspective of his evolution while still hearing accounts of his own evolution. Because there's also a part where she finds his journal and she's reading his entries and he's kind of talking about his own evolution. And Ryan had mentioned it earlier about the scene where he's like, I can't stop doing what I'm doing, which you later find out is like he's biologically driven to do that. It's not so much that he can't because of morality, he's doing it because
Yeah.
he's intended to. I would say over time, Ryan kind of already touched base on this, but you kind of have like this child mindset and then kind of slowly evolve into having more of an adult mindset. And that's not because he has any sort of pre-existing knowledge of those. It's just because of like the way he was treated and like the way that he eventually grew over time because it's like Rachel teaching him like knowledge and stuff. Like you kind of see it even in the writing style, this curiosity that he has where it's like he's asking all these questions and he's trying to learn language and he's like wanting to expand his knowledge more. But over time, he starts doing, like, darker and darker things. Like, there's this whole turning point where you find out that, like, he has this closet full of clothes that he's never worn, but it's from all the people that he ended up absorbing and killing inside of him. He had these, like, dead astronauts hanging inside of his apartment, and they just never left. They were always there. Like, he would just do things that just were, like, darker and darker over time. But, like, he didn't understand what was wrong with them because he's not a person, but yet he was evolving to have this, like, knowledge and consciousness and, like, care about people because he cared about, like, Rachel, he cared about Wick in his own way. You kinda see over time how this is, like, his evolution is not only changing biologically, but also his own consciousness that he develops over time. You can't blame him for it, but it's also like he's making conscious decisions that are partially based in his own evolution, but partially based in the experiences that shaped him.
Yeah, like this is conversational. It feels like I was mourning Born as he got older with Rachel. I could feel her parental like skills being like, no, no, why are you doing this and stuff like that because I really love their relationship. Like
Oh, same.
he was literally like Project Hail Mary. This is the kind of vibe here in the
Mhm.
beginning. And then he started to get a little weird. Like he had a strange relationship with Wick. And it started to get a little testy when she brought him outside into the world. And he had that encounter where he became a rock and stuff. And then it took a turn for the worst when he became a clone of both Wick and Rachel. Wick and Rachel, they would clash a lot. They had a lot of fights and stuff because it's the fucking apocalypse. It creates stressful scenarios and it leads to a lot of stressful things. And they were also not communicating 100%. And Wick didn't want Borne in the first place. It's like a stray cat that she dragged in and he didn't want. But there is a point where they're arguing so much and Borne wanted to solve it so they would feel better. So Borne walks into Rachel's room as Wick and he's asking if like she loves him and stuff like that. And then he does the same thing for Wick, except Rachel walks in on him and she sees herself talking to Wick. And it's just, yeah, it's just really unnerving. And then that's when it starts to go downhill because she starts to find out that he's been like killing people, but he doesn't think he's killing people. He's absorbing them. So he's like, they're still inside of me, but they're not because they're not alive anymore. Like, I don't even know if they're alive. They're just inside of him, a part of him now, but they're not on their own, existing in their free will. So she starts finding out about all this stuff. I can see her mourning the relationship she had, especially as he starts to become smarter. He gets like annoyed by some of the stuff that she's doing. He's rebelling like a teenager would, almost in his own way. And it eventually leads to like her having to kick him out and stuff like that. I feel her mourning with him and I like feel the parental connection to him. And it just really like made you upset over time. And then it kind of evened out towards the end because of the, whole thing where he kind of sacrifices himself. ASMR.
From what I'm hearing, I really like the fact that the author sort of made you guys, in a way, sort of care for Borne and sort of feel almost devastated throughout the book as he starts, evolving into what he was biomedically made for, but also go through growing empathy and getting human emotions. I kind of like that in Arthur because for a fact that whatever he's doing, you can't really blame him because that's what he was made for. But like you're just like, oh man, I can't be mad at him because of this and this. And it's just like seeing it get worse. I don't know. Do you guys in a way still care for Borne even
Yeah.
after what he does?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. He did sacrifice himself at the end. Like, he still loved Rachel. He didn't understand why he was being kicked out. He did to an extent, but not fully. Literally, it was like kicking a stray cat to the road.
It was
It was a thing.
from my point of view, it's almost like as if Borne was like a wolf that someone was trying to tame. And even as much
Yeah.
as like even taking care of it from a pup, they still have that instinct of, being that wild animal. And I don't know, from what I'm hearing, that's my point of view of how I see Borne. It's like this savage animal that was taken care of, grew into what he was biologically supposed to grow into, I think, but with added on like human empathy and like morals in a way. I like that. Speaking of the characters, what are your thoughts about Rachel, Borne's, and Wick's dynamic with one another?
I would say that Rachel and Wick's dynamic is like one of the most interesting parts of the book, just because they start off in one dynamic, they introduce another, and it's a mixture of like they care for one another, they're codependent because they're like business partners, but they also have like genuine feelings for one another. They're like lovers, but they're also codependent because of survival. So they're like trying to survive for one another, but it's also like they care about each other in their own ways, but they recognize that there's a certain distance between them to protect themselves. Like they have like these walls up for each other that eventually do come down, but it's like you see all these different dynamics that they take on. Even if they argue, they still work through it because they know they have to for survival, but they still love each other and still have sex and still have all these other connections with one another. But yet they still like butt heads about basic things. It's just a really interesting dynamic throughout the book where it's like they explore all these different parts and like the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, the ugly with these two. And I just thought that was a really interesting part of this book. We kind of talked about it already with like Rachel and Borne's dynamic, kind of having this like motherly figure for her being to Borne, and then Wick kind of being like skeptical of Borne just because like he's a biotech piece and he wanted to figure out like what he was because he's like, well, we don't know what it is. Should we trust him and stuff? And then like you kind of see like Rachel and Borne's dynamic affecting her dynamic with Rachel and Wick, where it's like he wanted to get rid of her, but there was just a certain boundary She was hiding him at times, not being truthful about his, like, evolution. She didn't tell him that he could talk at one point. Some of the stuff he figured out for himself, but he never went as far as, like, disrespecting Rachel or doing it where he gets rid of Borne on his own or anything. She had did certain things that he knew he wouldn't like, but knew that he would never push the boundary on. Even though it put a strain on their relationship, it was just, like, interesting to see this navigation of how her relationship with Borne was also affecting hers and Wick's, but also kind of, like, making it stronger once they found out the extent of Borne. So it's just interesting to see how over time throughout the book had changed.
Wick and Rachel's relationship was extremely realistic for a couple in the apocalypse. Like, I understood how they were business partners and stuff. They had like trust issues, really big trust issues. Like, he wouldn't tell her about the fish project he was doing. It took him so long until he was nearly dying to tell her about where she came from because he knew about it. He was the reason why she didn't really know what happened, like in between her coming from a different place getting to the city. So it was really interesting of them and their interplay because she would go into his room and make sure, like, what does he have in here and stuff like that. And he would do the same to her. But they also had a basic line of trust. They were codependent on each other. They needed each other at the end of the day. And then they ended up growing closer as Wick was dying and stuff like that. But it was also the whole period of time where Wick just did not want Borne, and it was really tearing their relationship apart. They wouldn't speak to each other. She was avoiding him at all costs and stuff. You see the evolution over this just because of Borne, and you see how it would be almost to like raise a kid, especially if someone doesn't want one, I guess. We already touched on Rachel and Borne. Wick and Borne was really interesting because Wick did not fucking want Borne at all. He literally wanted to test him and stuff because he does these little experiments. He worked for the company, so he knows how to do stuff. This drug is like little beetles or something
Beatles,
like
yeah.
that. And he gives them to people, and they get like memories of a different place, a different time, and stuff like that. It's like getting them high and making them trip and see all these memories of a different time. So he does like all that kind of shit, and he wanted to do that stuff with Borne. And then she was just like, no, no, no. And then they had that whole interaction where Borne just became Rachel, and then that whole trust barrier just crashed down again because he sort of became fine with Borne for a while, and then he just wasn't after that point. They had complicated stuff, but he kind of understood to an extent with Rachel towards the end. Their dynamics were really interesting and really realistic, so I really like the realism aspect in that.
So in a way, these overall relationships are very realistic to you guys. If this was happening in real life, this would be expected.
Yeah.
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 Especially given the circumstances of, like, the biotech and the state of the city that they're in. Like Ryan said, like, especially with Rachel and Wick, a lot of their relationship is pretty realistic.
Oh, good thing the author didn't really sugarcoat anything. It may put some realism into relationships like that. So for our last question, how does morality and ethics play in a role in this book?
Something that's interesting about this book is because it's a post-apocalyptic setting, a lot of it is done, like, for survival. So there's a lot of things that are considered, like, acceptable in this world because of the state of the world that morally would normally not be, or things that would be like, "Oh my god, like, that's terrible," or things that would make you question, like, the ethical concerns of it, but because this is the post-apocalyptic setting that it's currently in, and all the different stuff in the company, the magician, all the things with, like, general society that's explored throughout the book, there's a lot of things that it kind of creates these gray areas where it wouldn't be acceptable in a normal world, but because the world is the way it is in this book, people can look past it because it's all done for survival. They have to look past certain things at some point in order to survive. A more character sense, you kind of see this with like Borne, where he doesn't really understand morality and ethics. He just knows the reaction and the consequences of doing things that are considered morally wrong or ethically wrong. There's also just different, like, elements of the setting, like, there's stuff with experiments and disfiguration and everything, there's, like, animal testing, there's person
Mhm.
testing, there's scenes about these kids that were experimented on by the magician, so, like, there's a lot of ethical concerns in this, but, like, morality-wise, nobody really does half the things they do in this book because they're trying to be evil. They do them because they're trying to survive, and they're just inherently evil because of it, so
Yeah, I agree with what Juju said. There were some lines that Rachel would draw. Like, she obviously had like the killing rule, but she also did kill someone in the situation before, and she was really conflicted about the morality of that. Later on, she was teaching Borne, like, killing is wrong. You can't just take someone's life. but like certain situations may call for it. She just has that strict line. So if the situation calls for it, she can kill people. But there's also the fact that some of these kids literally just were born into the apocalypse. And if they're raised in a bad situation, how are they going to know if it's good or bad if that's all they've been doing and no one is there to teach them what's good? Or if the person there is that's teaching them, the person there might just be teaching them that what they're doing now is good. There was a scene where Rachel got mutilated by all these children that came up and just started torturing her for hours. But they didn't know any better. They were literally raised into the apocalypse. That's just what people do in the apocalypse. And they all have like this biotech and stuff on them. They just become strange and bad in the apocalypse, and morality and ethics really bends, especially when you don't know what it is. Exploring that with the people that weren't raised fully, like Rachel, she got to see a society before, and Wick also got to see that before everything crumbled, versus the people that hadn't, like Borne, like the children and stuff like that. It was an interesting dynamic to explore.
Damn. I kind of regret not reading this. Like, this overall is just a really interesting book. Realistic relationships overall. Also, like, the question of, like, morality, what is right and what is wrong, and, like, that type of book is actually very, very interesting. So, that is my last question. I'm going to transfer the rest of the questions over to Jasmine.
Getting into the deep questions here. What's your guys' favorite character and why?
Whoa. Holy fuck.
I know.
Where do we go from here?
I don't even know.
See, okay, I had thought about this after I finished the book, and I was trying to think like who would fit it because there's so many characters in this book that I like from a writing standpoint, but I guess if I had to pick a favorite, I really like Wick's character. I thought his character had not only some of the most interesting interactions with the other characters, but I just thought like his reactions, the way he's written, his background, and he was also valid in a lot of his decisions. Like Rachel would do these things, and I like Rachel as a character, don't get me wrong, but there's just certain things where I'm like, well, damn, you're kind of putting him in a tight spot. How is he not supposed to have the reaction he's having right now? Like, how is he not supposed to be concerned? Not because she was intentionally trying to do it, but it's like their trust really kind of started fraying at some points because she would deliberately go around him or deliberately do things behind his back. And like he kind of did the same thing, but there was just certain things that they had established a trust and she was just constantly testing that because of Borne. And in a survival setting, they need each other and they need to have some sort of like level of trust. And so she just kept testing him on that. And every single time, he never got rid of her. He never cut things off with her. But even outside of that, like, his dynamic with the magician was really interesting, but I just think his whole character, the fact that he used to work for the company that was the cause of most of the stuff happening, he basically was involved with every single character, including the protagonist. He was involved with Borne, he was involved with the magician, he was involved with the company that did everything. He was almost, like, there at all the points of characters in a way. Not just because he's a character in the book, but I just thought his character and the way he was written was just super interesting, and he was probably my favorite just in terms of how the things progressed throughout the books. I'd have to say Wick.
Period.
I agree with Juju because when he was described initially, I was just thinking of this like fucking twink emo drug dealer guy that hangs around this cool looking girl all the time. And he has like this edgy backstory and is constantly acting like a tortured fool. But I really liked him since Juju kind of went on the rant there. I also really liked Borne. What a fucking complex character. Oh my God. His whole exploration of being a person was so interesting because he was just going through so much internal struggle that Rachel wasn't seeing because she just didn't know. He wasn't elaborating on it fully, or like when she would tell him not to do a certain thing, he would just be more conflicted and stuff like that. There's literally a whole section in his journal that would just be, I am a person, I am a person, I am not a person, stuff like that, because he was trying to figure out himself. And like he had more senses and stuff than humans. He felt all the feelings of the people he was absorbing, stuff like that. He just had a different perspective on everything. He's such a complex character. And also, I could see in a way some of this LGBT gay, like trans stuff coming up, and because he's trying to figure out himself and where he belongs in the world. And his parent wants him to be one way, but he's like, I am not this specific thing. I'm trying to be myself, but you're not embracing it. Killing isn't the same thing as transitioning, obviously. But he would like force all these horrible cravings about trying to get people, like he's literally going against his biological code because he's trying to make Rachel happy and make it so she won't be sad anymore and be arguing with Wick anymore. He was just doing all of that for her. So in a way, it's almost kind of paralleling with like trans thieves and stuff like that. So that was also pretty cool.
Even though I didn't read the book, I really like the complexity of Borns. I don't know. It's my type of character. I love those types of characters where it's like you can't really be mad at them because that's how they were born, that's how they were raised. Seeing them trying to like be something that they're not, in a way, still end up doing what they were made to do. You don't feel angry at them, but you feel sorry that, they're trying to be something, but they can't do it. I like that. And the way that you also put it in like self-identity too. Is it imposter syndrome? You can consider that
A
imposter?
little both.
Kinda.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't know, like self-identity is a big theme for that one, especially for Born. I like that.
Yeah.
Which character did you guys find the most complex and why?
I think I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, Borne is also one of my other favorite characters. I'd have to say it goes Wick and then like Borne, but two are very close riding on each other. I said Wick for the first one because my next answer for this one was going to be Borne. He's obviously the most like intriguing and complex character in the whole thing just because of his evolution and everything about him. I think on the points that we had already touched base on, definitely Borne.
Yeah. I'll bring up like Mord and the Magician here because I did like their background. They were
Valid.
really like little plot pieces that was connecting. I was really confused about the giant flying bear in the sky in the beginning. Since it's written like a journal, she literally just jumps into the plot and assumes you know the world right away, and you have to walk with her to get to know the world. So like the giant flying fucking bear coming out of nowhere. And then later on, you learn how he's been experimented on by Wick, and he has all these different connections to different points in the plot, especially with the magician. Like she had this whole little empire going on and stuff like that. And then she was connected to Wick because she was dealing him stuff and yada yada. It just keeps going on. So yeah, that's another complexity there.
It'd be so funny with Mord though, because before they kind of explained his character, they'd be like unpacking stuff about Board, and then she'd be writing about how she saw him flying in the sky and just shit.
Literally. Flying, soaring past his mighty fur.
It's like we can't see the sun. Oh, why? Because it's Mord blocking it.
All right, yeah, it's just a normal fucking Tuesday.
I just a flying fucking terrorist bear, you know.
God damn it, Lord.
Fucking terrorist bear.
How did you guys feel about the ending?
I think we might have touched base on this earlier. I thought it was very well done. Like it kind of does a mixture of wrapping everything up, but then it kind of gives you a little bit of information about what happens after some of the events. Because it does like a partial time skip, but kind of does like a little bit of brief filling in the gaps between that. Because after Born kind of sacrifices himself to defeat Mord, then it's not completely restored, but then they kind of see like a vegetation and an agricultural increase. I don't know exactly why, but for some reason, like greenery started showing back up, and then society kind of started getting a little bit better. And like they kind of just wrapped it up in a way where it almost came full circle for Rachel too, because she starts to have like this mother role and she kind of starts taking in children and stuff. So in a way, it's like she lost Born, but she kind of like got to still use that maternal instinct that she developed from Born to be able to influence the lives of other people.
Yeah, you said like the full circle thing, and I was just reminded of the fact like when Bourne sacrificed himself, he basically just reigned over the whole land, and all of it started like growing. They're not used to natural earth stuff because I think in the other place that Rachel was in, they were also going through a giant environmental crisis that was like the ocean was gradually sucking up the land and stuff like that because humans are stupid. On the other side of stuff, it came in a full circle because she literally like had him as a little plant at the end, and he couldn't talk, he couldn't speak, he couldn't interact anymore, but he was still alive and he could still see her. He wasn't doing anything, but she knew he was still there in a little sense. He's just a little guy. And in a sense, he was probably seeing her, taking all the children and stuff. So yeah, the ending really kind of gives you a little hope for the future because everything just came in so miserable and dark, especially like with the relationships that were just miserable and dark and stuff like that. And it gave you little glimpses of hope throughout the thing, but you just didn't see where it was going towards the end. And then even at the end, it just felt like a little hopeless. but then it comes back in a circle. So it was nice.
Does the tin fish match the vibe of this book?
We actually talked about this a little bit before the discussion. I would say just because it's supposed to be like a flavor intensity that's paired with something it shouldn't be paired with, it definitely reminds me of like the biotech combinations of things being combined together that normally wouldn't be or shouldn't be combined. So I would say that it very much fits the vibe of the book. And based on yeah, and that wasn't even intentional. Like that's just what we rolled. So the fact that it ended up fitting so well for this, it was just really ironic.
The weird combo there is also just kind of matching with the fact like how weird some of the stuff like Borne himself talking from like an objective standpoint and not going into the whole like personhood philosophical crisis there. He's just like some kind of creature, piece of biotech that she found. So it's just kind of this weird thing that's being paired with this normal person trying to survive the apocalypse. Because beforehand, she was just fucking slaughtering the biotech because they were evil. And stuff like that. So yeah, I paired pretty decently. It was weird that it came like that.
Yeah.
Nice. If you guys saw this at a library or a bookstore, would you pick it up based on the cover alone? I did.
Honestly, yeah. If I didn't have to get it for the club or like just saw it on a library shelf, yeah, I definitely would. So like just kind of showcasing again. The cover art, like I know the whole point of it is to like almost infer based on the descriptions, but I mean, yeah, the cover art's really cool because it's obviously somebody's take on it, but I would definitely pick it up. So
Juju, does your copy, when you hold it to a certain light, does it have that imprinting of
yes,
Lord?
yeah, it has like this. I can't figure out here. Hold on. It's like
Iridescent stuff, you can see moored under it, like the bear face.
Oh, that's so fucking cool.
here. Maybe I have to like.
I'm trying to do it as best as I can.
No, I can see. Is there teeth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. What the hell?
Isn't it? Okay, I
Oh,
think
I
I'm
can see the
getting better.
nose. Okay,
There.
that's clever. That's
Yeah.
clever.
How he's like there in the background. See, it comes all around. We did pick it up at Barnes and Noble because of the cover. So yeah, I guess I kind of already past tense did this with Jazz. But yeah.
I would. Damn. If I picked up that book and I saw that, I'd be like, what? But then if I turn over the book and saw the summary of it, I'll put it back down.
Gabe, it also has like a thing at the end, a bestiary, where it shows you all the creatures that it introduces. Like
Illustrations.
yeah, and it shows you what they look like, what they are. It gives descriptions and stuff like that.
Oh,
what
like
they
what
do,
do that?
all the
That's
stuff that you
amazing.
encounter throughout the book. Yeah, it's really cool.
Damn, this is a good book. Okay. So now, after all these questions, Julia, Ryan, what is your overall rating?
Honestly, probably like a 9.5, if not a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna have to say 9.5 though. I just wish it was longer. Really, and I know that there's more in the series, but yeah, I really liked this book. It's probably gonna be one of my favorites, to be honest. It's really good for a sci-fi book.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a 9 out of 10. I agree with Juju. It was really good. I liked the way all this stuff wrapped up. Even the cover is beautiful. I don't really have any complaints. It's only down like a point just because of how it just jumps in. It just assumes you know the world. You have to kind of get used to the book as you are getting into the book. Like that's the only thing, but that's not a huge deal for me. So 9 out of 10 is my rating for it.
Okay, so for our tin fish of the month, what is our ratings?
It's not bad. I mean, I guess I'd have to go with like a 7.5. I'd say, considering what we were going with, it's pretty good on the combo, considering it's supposed to be paired with something it shouldn't be. I just knock it down a couple of points because, like, the flavor intensity only really comes out when you pair it with something rather than it being on its own. So that's the only thing, but it's not bad. It's pretty good.
I have to agree with Juju. I thought the flavor would be more intense because it just says trout fillets and onion relish. I was like, wow, this sounds out there. I mean, yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I think the textures aren't that crazy against each other either, like I thought they would be, because that's how I kind of based my pickings.
I will also give it a 7 out of 10. Like everyone else has been saying, I expected like a little more from the trout, but like overall, it wasn't a bad flavor. I kind of enjoyed the fact that there wasn't a fishy taste to it in a sense, because like the weird pairing would have made it weirder if it had a really strong fish taste. So the fact that it was like light in the bag, it was just the meat and it had the slight onion taste, like the barbecue kind of came through. The jam tasted like barbecue essentially, like when you did the little smokies and the barbecue sauce and shit. But yeah, 7 out of 10. I expect a little more from the onions, but that's all right.
I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Absolute tinema.
Tinema.
I'm just gonna give it a 10. So that was our rating for our 10 and for the book of the month, Borne by Jeff Vandermeer. But before we leave, we are going to roll. Who is doing the rolling?
I'll roll the fish.
It's just a regular D20, right?
Roll a 2d4, unless you get a 4.
I got a 1.
So we got flavor profile intensity again. Roll a d4 again.
3.
3. Okay, he didn't get a 4.
So we got what? Flavor profile and intensity. So we're doing something punchy or briny.
Hello, fellow Voyagers. Rather than rolling for a book, this month's episode will include a mystery book specifically selected by all of our members. This will be a special episode. All 4 of us will be recording in person for the very first time on this show, and we'll have a special guest joining our discussion. I hope you all are ready for our mystery discussion and our tin of the month. Stay tuned on June 27th for our newest episode and keep reading on, Voyagers.
Okay.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
Finally.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on today's adventure. We will see you folks on the next voyage.